well. That way I can upload it to YouTube much easier and simpler. All right, so this is quite we just being aware of exactly what anxiety and worry is. We really want to know because when we understand something, right, Jessica, then we can get free from it and move on. So last week we went into worry and anxiety being an assumption of probability and potentiality, an assumption, not an actuality. Um, and also, sorry, before I go a little further, Bina, if you have any repeat backs and takeaways to share, please drop them into chat there. Those are always really cool. And, Bina does them very nicely and they're always a bonus. They're a very cool bonus. So we went through some things earlier, but that was on a different thing, right, Jessica? We're going to do these as we go along. We're going to do repeat backs and takeaways as we go along. All right.
Yes.
So the simple, plain old habit. And I want to read this and then I want to elaborate a little bit on the slide and then we'll get into it because Michaela asked me to elaborate some. All right. So we come into the world and what's around us is worry and anxiety to various degrees. We learn and we also don't learn any alternatives. That's huge. We learn and we also don't learn any alternatives. Thus, it becomes a habit before we know it, habit from which we have no real choice, or so it may seem. Anxiety and worry are unfortunately our defaults. When anxiety and worry are paramount, we believe we should worry and be anxious. Yes, we should worry. All right, so I just want to stop there because the next slide, this course goes very quickly through things, right? So, I mean, this simple plain old habit, this is a huge topic, but I specifically tried to keep it short, right? And in the Zooms, I can elaborate. So if you were doing this yourself with me one-on-one, then we'd really get into detail, like we've been doing, right, Jessica, when we've been going through the feeling and believing course. And we really get into it. I mean, we spent the whole day and, well, actually, we didn't go any further. We were just on the thing from last week still. But this is the power because when we go into detail, it really gets us to understand. So a couple of things with habit, right? And the key point here is that so many of our habits come about through no other reason than they come about, right? They happen, in other words, they just happen. And this is really, really powerful to understand. So to know that they're just a default and they happen because there's not another option, right? So very cool. All right, brilliant, Norma, excellent. So now Norma, chat in Facebook chat, right? Because otherwise I have to open up your chat box and chat with you individually, right? So which I can do, but it's better to chat right there while the live is on. It just makes it easier for me if you chat and comment as a comment on the live, right? Where you said yes earlier, and there we've been in our commented. It just helps me, Norma. It just helps me. I love it when you respond and chat. And whenever something comes up and you have a comment, just drop it there. It's a little delayed usually, but I always come back to those comments. It's very powerful. So this thing with habits, though, it's a default. It happens automatically. We don't even know it. It's inadvertent. Plus, the powerful thing is that it came about because there wasn't another option, right? If you think, right, Jessica, how much stuff did you worry about simply because you didn't really know there was something else that you could do, right?
A lot. There's so many things.
Exactly. All the things you worry about, most of them came, well, I'm supposed to worry, I should worry, and this is what you do. Because you're a good person and you do what you're supposed to, you do what you should do, and you just do it automatically. You don't think that the should, that the supposed to can be flawed. Thus is the habit we want to change. Not the habit of the specific thing itself, whatever it may be, whether it's worrying and anxiety or inappropriate eating or getting angry out of habit or whatever your habit is, many, many habits. But it's this point of us in the habit, the big overall habit, the habit of doing what we should do and supposed to do, right? You say, yeah, but doesn't that what make me a good person? Yes, wanting to do what you should do, but there's should and then there's should, right? Two different things, right? So there's a real should that you decide, and you only can decide the actual should, right? This is for you to decide, no one else, right? No matter how much they want to tell you so, for you to decide. In the end, you have to decide whether you believe people or not, right? We forget that we make this decision. So whatever somebody tells you, you have to first of all decide to believe them. Now we do this automatically and we're told to do so. But just because we're told to do it doesn't necessarily make it right. Right, Jessica?
Exactly. Just because we're told or taught that we should worry about somebody or should feel anxiety because of something does not mean that we actually have to.
Or be angry or be stressed or
Or any
whatever.
emotion.
Exactly. Or any belief, never mind just emotion, both of them together, right? So should, there are many, many, many shoulds that are bogus. And shoulds, well, you should get high, you should get drunk. Yes, Jessica?
No.
Wasn't that a part of your world at one point in time? Yes?
It
Huh?
was a very big part of my
Right.
world at one point in time.
But hang on a second. Who said you should? How? They didn't say directly, but they said it indirectly. Yes. Or sometimes they also said it directly. Man, we should go and get drunk, right? Well, why? Well, I don't know. It's just a thing you do. Right? They don't necessarily say why. And if you're in the habit of believing should, you just kind of go along with it. And well, you do the stuff that others do because, well, they're doing it and this is what we're supposed to be doing, right? So
Or
supposed to be and should are horribly corruptive sometimes. It all depends. This is why they say, depends on the crowd you run with. You end up doing stuff. Now, you may end up with a bad crowd and you end up doing criminal stuff because, well, this is the thing you're supposed to do and you just go with it, right? So, but you also may end up doing things that you think are good, like anxiety and worry. Yes? Or you messed up eating or any sorts of 101 different habits simply because of this habit of should, right? So this is the power habit I want to talk about. And right on cue, we have somebody who's been writing about should, who's been emphasizing and focusing should and the horror of should really. Yes, it is a corruption, unfortunately, in our world. Not a positive, it's a corruption, right? Should has become a negative thing, right? Most of the shoulds that you see around you are just absolute bogus and crap and nonsense and not good at all, right? Yes, sure. Hello, sure. Hello. Glad you're here, sir. Glad you're here. Glad.
Good morning.
Good morning indeed. Yes.
Yes, agree with everything you just said. And do mean agree because I've experienced way too much.
Correct. Yes.
And
Agree
as I
is
feel it back,
sometimes we just don't want to do it for the wrong reasons, right, Jessica? We don't want to agree because we're trying to make the other people feel good. Shows agreeing like you in your life, you were agreeing because this makes sense to you. Yes. So this is it,
yes.
that they say
That I'm learning to get out of the habit of saying I agree to everything just to appease the other person.
Exactly. I rather think, do I understand?
or out of fear of rejection.
Exactly. And out of habit. So
Yep.
agree is a very, very powerful habit. We are taught to agree, not because we actually agree, because we've thought it through to the end. We've perspective shifted to multiple perspectives, and we've really, really gotten a grasp of this. We've gotten through, applied awareness to it, and so, what is going on here? What is it all about? Then we discern now that we come to understanding. Then only can I maybe say I agree. But by that time, it doesn't matter. I understand. My agreement means nothing by the time I understand, right? When I understand agreement, disagreement, it doesn't matter. I can actually understand where you're coming from without agreeing with you. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I understand why you listen to that horrible music you listen to. Oh my God. Seriously. But I understand it.
Sometimes I can't even understand it, so we're good.
Right. I'm just saying, yeah, okay, I'm teasing a little bit, but we're gonna have fun. I mean, or the food that people eat. It's like, holy moly, man, you're not catching me eating that stuff, but I understand why you eat it. So this is the thing: we can understand without agree and disagree. It's a very powerful understanding to understand. But we are in these habits, and the habit of should and doing things simply because we don't have alternatives, right? So this is the powerful thing. So if we take a habit and we deconstruct it, then we start to see, oh, a habit just comes about because there's not a replacement. So if you want to deal with a habit, find a replacement. Now, there's another part of habit, right? And this is a very powerful part. So, Michaela, if you're listening, please pay attention to this, right? This is got to do with emphasis, right? So see, the brain is like, behind us. Behind me is kind of maybe a picture of your brain, right? And the wiring and the neurons, and you see here's maybe a thing that didn't quite finish yet. You got all excited about it, you emphasized it, but you didn't finish it, and then we'll just kind of unravel, right? So the brain, the actual wiring in your brain gets built, gets constructed through emphasis. Why emphasis? Because emphasis is telling your brain, hey, listen up, brain, this is important. This isn't just me, just another old thing, whatever. No. This is like stuff that I want you to actually reshape and rebuild and rewire yourself around, right? Because this is important. That's why I'm emphasizing it. This is why trauma gets stuck in us, right? PTSD, because of overemphasis. And that emphasis rewired your brain, and it literally got hardwired. There we go. And now it starts looping. All right. So we have to be very cautious with emphasis, but also at the same time, understand the incredible power that it is. But like any power, we have to use it carefully. So habits are things that have been emphasized, whether you did it deliberately or not. Either way, it is something that's come about through emphasis. And it's a particular emphasis, a habit to say, I want to do this repeatedly. Yes. So a habit is, and now a regular habit, right? Simple, plain old habits, little h habit. These are habits where we have emphasized unawareness. Yes. We're saying, I want to do this habitually, and I don't want to be aware that I'm doing it because, well, I want to be doing other stuff and it takes my time and energy and whatever, right? So we think we are saving time and energy by these habits that we do, yes? Where I don't have to think about things. It's a bit of a false idea, as we'll come to see later on, but it's very important to understand that habits, in the regular habits, are deliberate unawarenesses that we've made a program, that we've wired our brains to do, right? So we've deliberately made ourselves less aware. So this is, yes, there are benefits, but also there are great detriments, right? So when we do this stuff, we tend to lose connection with our world. We stop living deliberately, and that's a very high price to pay for that convenience, yes, to stop living deliberately. Now, when we look at this from the point of anxiety and worry, and we put it together, the habit of doing it, just, okay, default, and that we come in, we don't have a replacement, and we combine it with emphasis. Yeah. What are you doing when you're emphasizing, when you're worrying and you're being anxious? You're emphasizing negativity. You emphasizing, you re-importing it, you reinforcing it, you're training your brain to think worrisome, to think negatively, to anticipate negativity and blah, blah, all the other crap, right? So like Bob Newhart, that famous thing, right? Sure, you know that scene, right? Just stop it, right? Yeah. Yes. So be aware that you can change this. So find the replacements. Yes, this is the key that we're going to say here. Find replacements for your behaviors. Because to say, man, this is crap, I don't want to do it, that doesn't really help, because you might know very clearly this is no good, right? But now you say, well, okay, I'm going to stop doing this. Well, what do I do now? Can you do a nothing? Sure. Can you do a nothing? So maybe listening only. Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Sure.
No, you can't do a nothing. That
can't.
you have
Exactly.
to do something.
Exactly. So the old expression, better the devil you know than the one you don't know. So when we want to say stop doing something, we identify it as a problem, and we say, I don't want to stop worry and be anxious anymore. Okay, well, all right, I'm going to stop it. Well, it doesn't work. Why? Because you can't do nothing. So you go back to what you're familiar with, because familiarity is also comfort, right? And it's much more comfortable to do something that we're familiar with than to do nothing at all. We can't do nothing. This kind of freaks us out, and our brains can't handle it. So be aware of this. All right. So this is very important, right? And we're going to come later on to the replacements of anxiety and worry. I want to just get this point of habit through, to realize that anxiety and worry is not some disease or anything like this, whatever, make some big deal out of it. It's just a bloody simple, plain old habit. All right. Now, it's a habit that has severe consequences, but there it is. It's a habit. And like any habit, can be changed, right? This is it. Very key. Right, Sher?
Yes. I was just typing in there that I am trying today to practice the habit of hearing, capital H hearing, more than talking and sharing, because I'm really good at sharing. I've got a good habit of that, but I'm trying to also develop the habit of hearing. So
Yes.
hey, you know what? I mean, it does work on taking away the anxiety and worry when we listen to ourselves, when we learn to listen to others and to ourselves.
Yes.
What comes naturally with understanding.
Yes, exactly. When we listen to ourselves, when we hear ourselves, capital H, hear. And now, when we hear, this is a big topic. It's a huge topic. Sure, and I've gone into it lots, right? Capital H, hearing, what exactly that is. It's more than just hearing the words. You hear past the words, you hear implications, you hear assumptions, you hear consequences, you hear moreness. It's all, right? So when I first met you, Jessica, right? That's what I did. I heard your moreness, and I just shared it with you, right? I said,
Yes.
very simple. One thing, one very simple little thing, right? But there's whenever it comes to people doing simple things, right? You think, oh, that's very simple. But sometimes in order to do a simple thing, it takes a whole lifetime to get to that point of simplicity, right, Sher?
Yes.
It takes some work to get there, right?
Yes,
So this is a big deal though, right? It's a very big deal when we can start to hear. So yes, when it comes to anxiety and worry, listen to yourself. Now, I would absolutely recommend a very powerful habit that you can implement deliberately. Very simple habit that connected to listening to yourself. Whenever you say things like, what was I thinking? Answer that question. Answer it. Don't just say, whatever rhetorical question, right? Or even if you say it about somebody else, like, oh, I wonder what they were thinking. Answer it. Really say, oh, well, I guess. And then when you actually answer those questions, they come from your subconscious. They're being asked because they want to be answered. You assume that the answer is like, well, the obvious answer. But when you actually answer it, you're going to realize it's not nearly as obvious as you thought it was, right? So now that answer, though, when you do that, you starting the practice of actually taking yourself seriously. You're actually listening to yourself. You're actually hearing yourself, right? And this is profound. So next time you start talking about all the things you're worrying about and you start actually listening to yourself, you're going to go, oh, what the hell am I doing? Right?
Yes, I was
Right?
gonna, yes, and I was gonna pop in real quick. And
Sure.
there's something that just dawned on me, and it didn't dawn on me before because we've gone over this a couple of times. But one thing that I noticed that I'm learning how to now, but I lacked, and that's past tense, lacked.
Yes.
Was
Look at that
actually
habit you're changing.
listening to myself and hearing myself. I can listen and hear other people, but I had a hard time being able to do that to myself, and that's something that I am learning now is pay attention to myself, my thoughts, my emotions, my everything.
Yes. All right. So just in case, by the way, I'm on twice here, with a diamond and then with a video. The diamond is my phone, and I'm using the phone for the audio. The phone gives me better audio. So when I talk, you'll see the yellow box go around the diamond, but that's just because I'm on twice. So, all right. Just in case somebody's getting confused, right? Because on the phone, you don't always see the video. So, well, now that I'm screen sharing, you're going to see the screen share. But on the phone, all you got to do is just swipe. I think it's swipe left, and then you'll able to see the video. All right. So this thing with habits is super powerful. And exactly to get into that habit of actually listening to yourself. You know, we say and do lots of stuff that we never really paid attention to. And when you actually listen to yourself, when you hear capital H here, capital L, listen to yourself, you paying attention to yourself. And that habit of answering those rhetorical questions, now you're shifting it from just, oh, whatever. And you're shifting it to actually paying attention to yourself, right? And not only in things that we say, but in things that we do. It's like now that I kind of look at this, you know, back in the past, I did stuff at the time, like, why was I doing this? Made no sense, right? Jessica, sure? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there, right? So this is very powerful that we can do things that don't make sense. We assume they make sense. We assume we make sense. Habit again, right? Just pure habit. We assume, right? So don't assume, right? Don't assume. It really is something really detrimental, this assumption. And before I go to the next slide, right? Assumption is inadvertent arrogance, is it not, sure?
Yes.
This point of inadvertent arrogance.
Yeah.
It's like, man, did we get COVID slapped by inadvertent arrogance? Yes.
We do.
So again, you know, oh, go ahead, sure. Go ahead, please.
Oh, no, we do. I was just going to say, but that is one of those, and unfortunately, it can become a habit we're just not aware of. You know,
Exactly. And that is what habit is. It is entrenched unawareness, repetitive unawareness.
Yeah.
Entrenched repetitive unawareness. You know, this is really profound. It's like, holy moly, why do I want to be unaware? Well, okay, some people say I want to be unaware because I don't want to face the awful truths of the world. Well, okay. Yeah, all right. That's a legitimate reason. Fine, fair enough, you know. The old expression is, it's folly to be wise, right? Where ignorance is bliss. But the problem is, ignorance is only bliss if you can maintain the bubble. Very few of us have a luxury to be able to live in protected bubbles, right? So most of us, well, no, sorry, we don't get that protective bubble to have the bliss of ignorance. So it's just foolish to be ignorant, right? We get smacked all the time through being ignorant. We don't have that luxury. So this is life is trying to tell you, look, you got to be aware, right? This is your number one safety. If you want to take care of things, if you want to be competent, efficient, effective, everything you want comes from awareness. That's it, right? Everything that you don't want comes from unawareness. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, all the crap and the shit that you got into, all the trouble you got into, what was the root cause? Unawareness, right?
Yeah, but there is something I'd like to say about unawareness. You know, I used to absolutely be really hard on myself when I discovered that, oh my gosh, you know, I just don't know about these things. I am unaware. And when you first hear that word, at least when I first heard it, I thought, wow, what does that mean about me? Well, it doesn't mean anything. It just means you just didn't know. And that's okay. That's why we're here. We're here to know. We're here to understand.
Exactly.
So don't be hard on
yourself. Exactly. This is a very big point you're bringing up, Cheryl. I love this point. This is a huge point, right? Unawareness is not stupidity.
No, it's not.
Neither is ignorance, right?
Nope.
So this is something that our modern society confuses all the time. They confuse ignorance with stupidity. Not the same thing. Your computer, when you get it, like when you get a real, true, fresh computer that doesn't come preloaded with software, right? This computer has no software, zero. Back in the day, you used to get them like that, right? Not anymore, unfortunately. They come all loaded and all this bloatware and crap. But take off all that stuff, right? Give it a clean wipe. Now your computer's ignorant. Is it stupid? Have you screwed up the CPU, the GPU, the memory, the RAM, all the stuff? No, it works perfectly. It's a perfect computer. Nothing wrong with the computer. But it's thoroughly, totally, 100% ignorant. Yeah. So understand the difference. Ignorance does not mean the processor cannot work. It can't compute. It doesn't have anything to work with yet, right? Now, does this mean anything? No. because you put in and you ask the computer to do things, it does it, no problem, right? Because it
Right.
can. So all you've got to do is connect to the things that you need to do. So don't ever feel bad about ignorance, because I got news for you, right? Your awareness of your ignorance is only going to get worse, not better, but worse. The more you know, the more you know how much you don't know.
Yes.
So now
And you
you
really
screwed.
have to,
If you're going
yeah,
to be
you
hung
really
up
have to
on
stretch yourself
ignorance,
for that.
say again, sir.
I said that it really takes some grace and some self-appreciation and
Exactly.
acknowledgement to really move past that, that
Exactly.
it's okay that you
Exactly.
don't know stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and the rate of not knowing is greater than the rate of knowing.
Uh-huh.
Right. So
Yeah.
as we learn, we become more and more aware of our ignorance faster than we become aware of the things we know. It's just, this is the magic of knowing. You can know about a lot of stuff. That doesn't mean you know the stuff, right? So
Right.
the more we know how much we don't know. This is part of awareness. Now, what we're looking to do is get abstract understandings which allow us to deal with things whether we know them ahead of time or not, right? So like the abstract example I've been using about driving a vehicle. I learn how to drive a vehicle. I don't have to learn how to drive that specific vehicle, right? So I have the tools that enable me to deal with my supposed ignorance. It's not really. Yes, I learned how to drive in a Chevrolet, but I learned to drive a vehicle. I learned abstractly. When I get in the Ford, I drive it, no problem, right? I can adapt, I can modify, I'm flexible, fluid, and I can be appropriate because I have abstract understanding. So this applies to all the stuff out there too. We can learn the abstract understandings, the abstract tools, and use those in any situation, right? So I don't need to learn how to hammer this nail into this piece of wood here. No, I learn how to hammer nails, and I can hammer them in any bloody wood, with any bloody nails, with any bloody hammer, right? Doesn't matter. I can adapt. This is what actual, real capital L learning is all about, right? Learn the overview, learn the abstract understanding, learn the
Mhm.
tool, don't learn the specific situation. Then you're not going to be worried about your ignorance. So what if I don't know? I'm just going to learn in a moment. I'm going to adapt and change and be flexible, right? So this is a very, very powerful thing to know this. Very, very powerful. Just notifications, get lost. So they're very cool stuff. Very, very cool stuff. Go ahead, Chef.
Oh
Please.
no, I was just clearing my throat.
Oh. Yeah, you guys jump in anytime. Otherwise, I'll just talk all the time. And I like to hear from you guys. But this is such a powerful point, though. I mean, habits are like, if we have an enemy, right, it's habit. Because
Mhm.
habit sneaks up on us. We don't know it's there. It's unaware. And it changes our lives and we don't even realize it, right? So habit causes a lot of trouble with, like, the habit of being anxious and worrying, the habit of getting angry, the habit of assuming. These are all really, really detrimental habits, and we don't even know they're there. That's why habit is such an enemy. Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Don't
sorry, I've been stuck on the phrase that, or the concept, as well as phrase that you had said, the more we know, the more we don't know. So
Not laughing at you.
that is,
Not laughing
no,
at you. I'm
that
laughing
is
with
just
you.
stuck in my head now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is, and I've been listening, but also thinking about that and how I can, uh, I guess, resonate with it, associate with it. Um, it basically, for me, it comes in the same lines of growth, like there's always
Exactly.
more to learn.
Exactly. See, because you're aware of this concept of more and moreness changes everything. All right.
Yeah.
So let's think of it as an explorer and an adventurer, which is another word for a learner or a power learner. I know a very particular person who's a power learner. Now, very magical person. Anyway, so we learners, right? We adventurers, we're explorers, kind of all the same thing, really. And we say, oh, you know what? I want to know about the countryside, where I'm at, the thing. So I climb on the fence and I look around. Okay, I can see a bit further. Then I climb on my roof and I see a bit further. Well, you know what? There's kind of lots out there and I see this. Okay, but then I climb up the hill. oh my goodness, there's even more out there. But I'm all excited because, well, I don't get intimidated by the fact that I now see lots of countryside around me that I never saw before. And I don't know. Oh, what am I going to do? Oh no, I'm all excited because, well, there's lots more to explore, right? So likewise, when I go up on the mountain and I see everything, I don't get, intimidated by it and stressed out. Why? Because do I need to know it all? No. Just because I don't know it doesn't matter, but it's stuff to explore, right? So it doesn't matter. When you have the tools of exploring, it makes no difference. And that's what we need to learn. The tools of exploring, the tools of learning. In other words, like we said earlier, the tools of hearing, the tools of listening, the tools of thinking, which is, like thinking it through to the end, and perspective shifting to multiple perspective, two incredibly powerful tools that can help you in any situation. Doesn't matter what it is, any situation. So the fact that there is all the stuff that we don't know doesn't really matter. It becomes a bonus, it's something that we are excited about because it's moreness, right? Not lessness, right? So the fact that I don't know and there's more and more to know, it's like, man, the moreness just keeps on giving. It's like, man, there's always this stuff to explore. It never gets old, never gets tired. It's always wonderful. So this is very, very exciting, right? When you think of it that way. Yes, Jessica?
Yes, and there's always uncharted areas to explore.
Exactly.
And personally, when I think about that, I get really excited.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. So, in the book series Dune, right, which a lot of people don't, they sort of miss the point of it. It's a story, a long extended story about consciousness, right? And the development of consciousness. Now, so what happens in the story is, the person eventually they become this god emperor or this big worm, but it's really a god and they can see into the future. And of course, once they can start to see in the future and they know everything that's going on, they're bored as hell, right? Absolutely, utterly, totally, and thoroughly bored. Yeah, because they know what's happening. So be careful of what you want. Oh, I want to know everything. Yeah, well, okay, well, you're going to be bored then. You're going to be very, very bored if you know everything. Yes. So in the story, though, luckily, there's a few little pockets here and there of people that the god emperor cannot see, and he just loves these people because they surprise him. Even though they're dangerous to him, he just loves them, right? The person that he can't quite see exactly, they want to kill him. So anyway, but he's all happy about this because he's not bored anymore. So be careful what we wish for, right?
Yes.
We don't want to know everything. That would be a terrible fate, a very terrible fate. So when we realize this, and again, see perspective shifting, the magic of perspective shifting, but we just have these habits that we think, and where does this idea of knowing everything comes from? It comes from people who have insecurity. I got to know everything, then I'll be secure. Well, sorry, but that's not really going to work because, first of all, you may know everything that's now. That doesn't mean you know everything that's going to happen. So you're still not going to deal with the future necessarily, right? Because it's always changing. So this is not the answer. The answer is to develop your awareness, your skills, your ability to be flexible and fluid and adaptable, to learn to be appropriate, to learn to have these tools that we are learning. And one of these tools, these powerful tools, is the awareness of habit and being in charge of your habit, right? So being in charge of your habit means understanding replacement. Yeah, that's the key word here, right? Because you can't undo a habit and say, I don't want this habit anymore, and then have nothing. Oh, got to have a replacement because we cannot do a nothing. And then the second point is that of emphasis. Now, emphasis comes into many, many things, but particularly with habits. Yes. So where this is very, very powerful. And then also association, right? Association goes hand in hand with emphasis. Yes. So you have past associations with, an ex who's a horror. Yeah. Was abusive and mean and terrible and, violent and all sorts of crap and stuff. In your brain, when you see them, they're associated with all those negative things, right? This has become an habitual association because of the emphasis. The brain is now wired to see it that way. When we understand this, we can start to deal with it. Yes. And there was more things that we won't go into all of the things with, animal psychology and, chase reflexes and all of the stuff. A lot of things that come into it. But when we start to really break things down and think them through, we really can unpack these things and say, oh, you know what? I can re-emphasize. And instead of seeing this person as, the end of the world, I can see them for what they are. Right, which is, they're a bully, they're abusive, and they are dangerous. Yes, this is a fact. That just because they're dangerous doesn't mean that I have to be overcome with fear and run away and shut myself down. No, look at the lion tamer. Right, the lion tamer never ever forgets the lions are dangerous. Right, never. Never. I mean, any lion tamer who thinks the lions aren't dangerous is going to be a dead lion tamer in a hurry, right? However, they've learned to manage their fear, yes, so that they can deal with the lions, right, and tame the lions. So now, okay, with people, it's not quite always the same as with lions. It's not a very direct analogy, but when it comes to your emotions, it is. Now, if this particular person typically bullies, they feed off your fear, they feed off the intimidation. So when that no longer applies, well, then there's nothing there for them anymore, right? So you can remove your side of the equation, right? And they say, well, this one's a waste of time because I'm not getting my jollies out of being all bossy and superior and dominant and making them afraid. I mean, they really get off on you being afraid. How sick and messed up is this? But okay, this is it for some people. It's sad. But when we understand this, we can change the habits of the behaviors. We can re-emphasize our brains, yes? And this is very important, this re-emphasize the rewiring. Now, this is easy? Not necessarily, yes? So I want to emphasize this, right? Habits, changing habits. This is the job. This is the task. This is why you hear me say over and over and over again, without application, it's all meaningless. Yes? There's no way you're going to change a habit just by saying, oh, I wish to change the habit. Well, maybe, I hope so, right, sure, but you have to do something.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I mean, at least not as far as I know. Now, yes, sometimes we can change in an instant. It does happen, but it's fairly rare. Typically, especially with habits, we need to practice, especially long, old, entrenched habits. So I want to say, in this group here, people listening, right, in the SASSY group, most of the people are about self-improvement, self-awareness, self-discovery, and they get all excited at their new changes. Be careful of your old self, because your old self has got the power of habit to bring it back. Yes. So you always got to be on the lookout for your old self, because the old self is a very powerful tool at its disposal, and that's habit, right? So your old self will creep up on you just because of habit looking to do it. And why? Well, because it worked for so long, most of your life, right? And, all your life you've had this and it worked, and you survived, right? Our self that tries to keep us alive doesn't care whether you're happy or not. It just wants to keep you alive, right? So understand that your old self is kind of got a bit messed up there, and it's got its wiring a bit crossed and its objectives crossed, right? So
I can personally definitely say that even when you're new into this and you have a bunch of, understanding and awareness and discernment, you still like your old self will still try to pop through, especially when things get tough. And it's just constantly being aware of that's a possibility. Don't ever rule it out. Reason being is because you want to keep it kind of at bay, in the back. That way you can make sure it doesn't happen.
Exactly. We've got to be on guard against our old selves, is what I'm trying to say, because
Be
old
cautious
selves
of your own self too.
are habit. Yeah. So we have to really watch out for those old selves. And this is why we want to learn to live deliberately, because the old self is an unaware self. It's an habitual self, right? And that's a low energy self, which, yes, the body also tries, and the self looks to save energy. Energy is very precious. So there is an allure to that old self, right? To live in unawareness. But it's a very dangerous allure. It's a very short-sighted allure. Yeah. So we don't want to fall into that trap. All right. So how does this apply to eating? Right? I was asked very specifically, to talk about habits and eating. Yes.
Habits and
Any
eating.
thoughts? Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Well, it is, because I mean, we can get into the habit where, habits, of course, can develop false beliefs, or
Yeah.
false beliefs can develop out of habits. That, like, say in my case, that, we're just, like, for me, always thinking that I was too big, overweight, too large. And so I got into the habit of just not eating, which then turned around and had the opposite effect on me of keeping the weight on. But then we have other people who don't eat, period, and they don't gain weight, and then that gets into the other realm of severe anorexia.
Yes, exactly.
The
Or
habit of, to
bulimia
me, the
and all
habit
of
of
these disorders.
telling ourselves who
Right.
we are and trying to actually make ourselves believe it through habit, unless we have something solid to, as you said, replace that belief with,
Exactly.
it's going to be really, really, really tough
Exactly.
to change that habit of how we feed ourselves.
Yes.
Exactly. And 1 second, Jessica. Look what Cher said. How we feed ourselves.
Yes.
Not what we eat, right? So that
Right.
feed is psychological, emotional, spiritual, right, Cher?
It is. It definitely is. It's not just eating. It's not just consumption of food.
Exactly.
Mhm.
When we understand this association between food and nourishment, feeding, right? Hold your point, please, Jessica. Hold your point. Right? This is a very key point. I didn't want to let that go because you said how we feed ourselves. Right?
Yes.
Very huge, huge, huge understanding. So when you see this, that you're eating the food is a replacement for the nourishment you're lacking, and it's a false association. Yeah, very important to understand. Very, very important. Jessica, please, what you were going to say.
Oh no, and the reason why I leaned is because I'm putting pressure on my right hip so I can stretch the muscle. Yeah, that's why I was doing it. I was putting my upper body weight on it. But so I definitely can definitely understand in that aspect where, how we feed our beliefs and our, feelings. The other thing too is in my case, it wasn't the fear of being overweight. It was the concept of control. I did not, as a young child, feel like I had much control over things, but the one thing I could control was whether or not I ate, whether or not, and so that became an unhealthy fed habit. Because hey, if I can control what I eat, then I can control at least something.
Exactly. Exactly. So, in unawareness, we do things without even realizing. And sometimes we even realize, but, well, circumstances. But circumstances too, we always think we don't have options, we don't have choices, but we do.
Yeah.
And that's a very powerful habit to break, right?
But
This belief
the deliberateness at the time was for that very reason. And then as I got older, it crept up without me even knowing, without me being completely unaware of that as a habit. So when I still catch myself, I'm still working on it, where when I feel like my life is spiraling out or I'm feeling chaotic, I won't eat.
Yes. So now we have replacement being used negatively. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is very important to be aware of. Yes, we want replacements, but we want healthy, positive replacements. So when it comes to eating specifically, problem eating, look at what this eating is a replacement for.
Right. What's it associated with? For me, it could be, it was anxiety, it was worry, it was, a conception of myself.
Exactly.
It was a way to punish myself many times. I mean, it was just all kinds of things.
And then there were payoffs too, right? The extra weight was a barrier, a buffer, a layer, a protection, which you couldn't find anywhere any other way. So, okay, here I've got this, right? So,
yes. Yeah.
Yep.
And you made a very, very big point about, well, it goes back to understanding not why we eat, but that's why I said feed, because we feed ourselves not just with food.
Exactly.
But we also consume, our diet consists of everything that's in our environment, everything we absorb music-wise, literature, what's in the news, what's in the social media, our friends, our home, our shopping habits, all of that feeds us psychologically. And it does affect our view of food.
Exactly. So talking about habits and unawareness and the two together,
Mhm.
we are in the habit of wanting moreness, but we're unaware that we want moreness.
Oh,
We hunger for
huge.
moreness, right?
Yep.
This
Yep.
is built into us because we are moreness. All of us have tons of moreness into us,
Yep.
right? I've developed the skill all my life. I've practiced very hard and worked very hard to learn to see the moreness in others, right? Took a lot of doing, but it's there. Once you learn to see it, you recognize, oh my goodness, you know, a lot of people don't know why why I'm friends with them. It's like, well, why are you hanging out with me? Well, because I see your moreness. They don't see it, but I see it, and it confuses them sometimes, right? But this is my point. We have moreness, and because we have moreness and are moreness, we also want moreness. But if we don't think we deserve moreness, well, then now it's a screw up, right? How can I connect to moreness if I don't deserve it? And I have all these anxieties and doubts and fears. It's just a great big mess. You see the mess that comes from it. So we now end up substituting, and we're having, negative replacements or unhealthy replacements for the moreness that we crave. And also, we lose out a little bit by default because we don't know really about the idea, the concept of moreness even. So we don't really connect to it, but it's there. It's there, people. It's there. All you got to do is be aware of it. Yes, right?
There's one other thing about the habit that I want to bring up, and that's that we can pass our habits on, of course, to our children.
Exactly.
Definitely just keep that torch going. Inadvertently, we don't know it.
Inadvertently. So yes, if you are somebody who is in a position of influence, be aware of your responsibility, right? You're going to be passing stuff on. So be scrupulous, in other words, and be impeccable, because then that's the only way you can deal with that, right? You don't know what the consequences are going to be, but if you've been impeccable, at least you'll have no regrets, right? That's very important. Now, it's a different topic that we'll get into another time, maybe, but it's not part of this year. It's a big deal, a very, very big deal. Before we move on, Bina, hopefully you're still here. I'm keen to hear if you have any thoughts or perspectives on this. If you feel like sharing. So I hope so. I'm always keen to hear from Bina. It's always a treat. So this thing with, putting healthy replacements is very important. Now, I wanted to add one thing, or with habits, because we've been speaking in the abstract overall with any habit really, but eating or physical habits, not just eating, but addictions as well. They have other things that are involved, right? So be aware the body has its own logic. Yes? So when the body gets addicted to something, it believes it needs something that's actually harmful for it. Yeah. In classic addiction. Now, I guess you can get addicted to things that are good for you too, but it's just that the body develops a need for something. And when it's our classic addictions, alcohol, drugs, food, etc., when you're addicted to it, it's come to believe it has to have this, otherwise, and it's a false belief. So we have to be very acutely aware, and those false beliefs have come through inappropriate emphasis. Yes. So as you've associated the food with all these things, okay, this is giving me safety, this is giving me comfort, giving me security, this is preventing me from thinking horrible things, whatever, right? Those associations have made your body addicted to those beliefs and not the actuality. Yes.
So sometimes, hence why, okay, this is a self-honesty thing. Why I used to is keywords, really depend on being worried and anxious and chaos, is because it was essentially a consistent habit. Because my body, my brain and my body, basically my body felt like that's what it needed to survive, that adrenaline of it.
Exactly. And also, was it you or your past you?
Oh no, my past you, or past me.
Past me, right? So very big difference.
That's
right?
what I said was.
Yeah, we want to watch our language. When we talk, we say, well, I used to. and you emphasize used to, but you also want to emphasize I, and shift that to say, my past me used to, because you're no longer that same person, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Just we went over this. I'm sure we read the me of then and now this
Oh,
morning.
that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's a powerful poem.
Yeah.
So it's emphasis, and realize that you can change. Just because you were a jackass and an idiot and a lunatic and did all sorts of weird things in your past, it doesn't mean that you still are that, right? You can change. You can become a different person. Are you the same person now, sir, that you were back in the day?
Oh, heavens, no.
Let me ask you a very powerful question. Sorry. Go ahead. But I want to ask you something very powerful.
No, I was just emphasizing the no, I'm not.
Exactly. Now, in the past, there were some things that you worked hard at not doing. Yes, that you didn't want to do, that you battled not to do. Yes.
Yes.
And sometimes you did them, sometimes you didn't. However, those same things today, it's not a question any longer of wanting or not wanting to do them, because the you of now cannot do those things anymore. It's not possible, right, sir?
I cannot. I just
It's
cannot.
not
No.
possible, right? So when we truly change, it's not a matter of I need to fight these things anymore. No, I've changed. I'm different. I cannot do them anymore. It's simply not possible. The me of now, the who I am, you can't take back your awareness. This doesn't happen. You can't undo your understanding. You
No.
can't undo your sensibility. Well, how can I go and deliberately be stupid? I cannot. It's not possible. Sorry. Back then, I was in a bubble of unawareness. Of course, I did lots of stupid things, but I cannot deliberately do so. Right, Jessica?
Right.
Yes, and sorry, I was thinking in my head as you're speaking too that that's something else I'm going to put in my book of practice is saying the me of then
Yeah.
instead of I used to.
Correct.
It will help emphasize or de-emphasize that and bring
Exactly.
in more
Exactly.
emphasis to the me of now.
Exactly. My me of then, my personal me of then, and sure, your me of then, they have no connection to the me of now. I mean, it's like, it's not even remotely close anymore, right? So this is a very big understanding, and to use that language to say I used to do this, well, that's not actually true. I didn't used to do it at all. My me of then did all sorts of crap and nonsense. But the I that I'm now, nope, sorry. It never did any of that stuff, right? It's not denial. It's simply acknowledging this. Now, yes, do I have responsibility? Of course, goes in because we, inhabiting the body. But do I personally feel bad about someone? No, because man, when I pooped in my pants, was that the me of now? No, so I can't feel bad about pooping in my pants. Whatever. Right? So we have to really understand this. It's not a way of escaping things either. It's the way to deal with it is through change, right, Sure?
Yeah. Yes, and that's something I was trying to explain to Jessica earlier is, when it comes to, it's helpful to that separation. I'm going to call it a separation of self, even though it's not specifically, but if we need to try and draw that dividing line between the me of then and the me of now, because, I is more than one. We have all these different parts of ourselves, which I just love. And we could still love that person that we were, no matter what we did.
Exactly.
We can still love them. They deserve love because we weren't getting it then.
Exactly.
So why not love them now?
Exactly. Because the underlying intent of me of then is still the same as the intent of me of now, right?
Yes.
You have an intent to goodness that hasn't changed.
Right there.
Right? Jessica, did your intent to goodness change?
Well, I didn't really, the me of then did not have any sort of intent of goodness towards that person at all.
Right. No, but what I mean is, were you trying to be a bad person? That's what I mean. I don't mean.
Oh no, I was trying to survive.
Right. An intent to goodness, capital G goodness. You were trying to survive and be happy. That's goodness, is it not?
Yes.
See what I mean? So your intent was to be good. How was the screw up. You had no clue how to be good. But it didn't mean you had bad intent, right? Because you
No.
were foolish and idiotic and stupid and nincompoop and whatever. Did all sorts of crazy stuff. But none of it was deliberately to be bad. Yes?
Yes. Well, and that's, what I was getting at is the fact that, you know, with said person, I'm not going to name names just because that's not needed. With said person, I didn't, and same thing I talked to you, Sil, about as well, that I didn't understand then in that moment in time
Exactly.
what the true gift of it was.
Correct. Correct.
It wasn't just also the understanding that that said person isn't going to change, but it was giving myself grace, being able to give
Exactly.
myself grace and stop being so
Exactly.
angry and,
Exactly.
getting down on myself for how all of that went down from, with the me of then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
myself grace with the fact that I
Yes.
did the best I could at the time, and I'm a different woman now.
Exactly. Exactly. But the key point I want to really emphasize here is just because we're foolish doesn't mean that we aren't trying to be good. We just don't know how. Yes. So
Yes, and
this is a very, very profound understanding that you always had that intent to goodness, and it's always part of you. We just didn't know how. Also, I want to say my me of then and my me of now are both trying to become my real me. Yeah, I don't know. This is something I keep working towards. I get closer and closer all the time. But at one point, I was very far away from it, and I tried all those ways, but I had no clue even. Right? But this is underlying, though. When we say I is more than one, all those different I's, they're all trying to get to real me. Yes. And real me is something else entirely. This is our moreness, and this is a very different way of being. So this idea, though, that we are moving towards this is a very profound understanding that we aren't really the I's locally. We are trying to be our real me, that moreness me, right? The big deal me, right? So if you want to get spiritual on it, to be one with the universe, one with all, etc., right? All of that type of stuff. So this is where we're trying to get to, but we have to learn. And as long as we are learning, we're not yet going to be what we actually are, right? And it sort of coexists in time. We already are it, but we aren't it. It's one of those coexisting contradictions. Very powerful to understand this. Yes, very powerful. That way we can make peace with ourselves and understand that foolishness, nincompoopry, stupidity, all of these things are part of the learning process. Yes, we are idiots because we don't know, and we do stuff because we don't know. Right? When we know, then we stop doing them. It's as simple as that. Yes, now, okay, habit may keep us in that loop for a while, but still, we are trying to get out of it. We make the effort, and this is why habit is such a big deal, right? So we really want to learn to deal with habits. And anxiety and worry is a very powerful tool for helping you to break habits, because most people who do worry and are anxious, they are aware of the anxious and the anxiety and worry, right? So in that moment, start to say, oh, this is just a habit. This is a habit to change. So use the anxiety and worry as a leveraging mechanism, as an awareness mechanism for changing the habit, right? And say, oh, okay, I'm aware of this habit now. Oh, yay, I'm aware of it. Well, because other habits you might not be aware of. Anxiety and worry is easier to be aware of, right? Now you can say, okay, I can change it. Well, let me replace it with something, right? And you can replace it with all sorts of other stuff. And lots of things, but there's many things that are very specifically powerful that we're going to come to later to change it. So this point of habit is very, very key, right? And how we see ourselves, the habit of self-perception as well. Very, very powerful. Would you say, sure, and you, Jessica, that already, I know, sure, you've been at this for a while now, right? Your habit of self-perception is profoundly changing. Present
Yes.
tense, continuous present, yes? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Continuously changing, yes. All the time, changing, updating. Jessica, you too, yes?
yes.
Yes, yes, very powerful, right? So don't change from one thing to another and then get stuck there. It's a continuous process. It's a continuous process, right? So
Yes.
become comfortable with change. This is how we defeat habit, is by being deliberate and being comfortable with change. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And I
And
do
habit
want to
is easy.
say,
Oh,
So sorry. I do want to say that when I look away from the screen, it's because I'm soaking in what you're saying and
Oh, yeah,
I'm
no problem. No
formulating
problem.
my own thoughts with it.
Yeah.
So it's also so I
No
don't
problem.
interrupt you because I will
Oh,
do
no
that.
problem. No problem. You know, part of capital H hearing is to pay attention to intent. So I can see your intent is to be paying attention. So yeah, no problem at all. No worries. No worries. This is a very, very, very powerful point. So to go back to the eating real quick before we move on, that we have to know and be aware the body has its own agenda. And there's with eating specifically, right? You know, you eat, you stretch the stomach, and the body feels hunger when the stomach shrinks. Yeah. So realize that if your stomach is twice the size of where it is that you want it to be, when it's shrinking, trying to get back to 100%, when it's at 200%, you're going to feel hungry, right? And this is going to throw out your awareness. So you have to now learn to be a little bit comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes. And same thing when your body gets addicted to a poison, it's become comfortable with a negative. And in order to get back to the reality, where you're not addicted to the poison, your body's going to have to be uncomfortable for a while to get comfortable with a new comfort, right? Which is the old thing. So this is very important to understand. It's a bit tricky, and it's kind of like doesn't make sense because you trust your instincts, you trust your feelings, but sometimes you cannot trust them, right? In other words, when your stomach is shrinking from 200% down to 100%, you feel hungry and you trust it. Yeah, but I feel hungry. I've got to eat. Well, it's an artificial hunger, right? You're not really hungry. It's because the stomach is shrinking. So understand the difference. Understand the difference, right? It's not that you're in need of nutrition. You got all that fat on you. You got plenty to live off. you can go for a month. Don't worry. All you need is water. So be aware of this. Be aware of this, right? There are other factors involved with things like eating and addictions. The body has its own logic, which isn't necessarily always logical, because your body is an adapting mechanism, right? It learns to adapt. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Brilliant. No problem. No problem, sure. We always assume good intent. Yes. This is one of the things that helps us be really good friends to each other. When something happens, like Sher drops off, and how can I possibly assume that and think that, oh, Sher's being rude? And I know you, Sher. I know you're not ever going to ever do something deliberately rude or insensitive or whatever. So, of course, if you dropped off, there has to be a good reason for it. If it's not your connection, it's, well, something in your life has come up, somebody at the door, whatever. Right? I assume good intent. Yeah. And if you want to have good relationships, people get out of the habit of assuming people can be crappy as a default. The people that you love, assume they are acting from good intent. Yes. First assumption. So if
Yes.
I don't understand, if you do something that irritates, annoys, or bothers me, my first assumption, the habit I want to change is, oh, I must be misunderstanding. That's my first assumption, right? I'm misunderstanding. If I'm irritated or annoyed, my assumption is I'm in a habit of doing this, and it's just pure habit, and I've got it wrong. So I associate those with this new habit of assuming I'm misunderstanding. So then I go and say, oh, Jessica, I really, whatever you did there, it's like, man, that really bothered me. And I got all annoyed and irritated, but I'm not getting it. I know I'm not getting it. So please explain. And then you say, yes, actually it was this and that. And I say, yeah, I never even thought of that. I just completely missed that. It was outside of my awareness, outside of my imagination. I never even imagined that you could be having this motivation or this intent or this thing. All right, sorry. Okay. Or another time you could say to me, well, it's just my old habits coming back. I was being a nincompoop, sorry. All right, okay, well, I'll forgive it, no problem, right? See, so when we assume good intent, we get to a place of discussion and understanding of actual, real, true, capital C communication, and then we can unsolve it. But first, in order to get there, we have to assume good intent. Yes, because if I assume bad intent, we're not going to have a discussion. We're not going to communicate. We're just going to argue. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
You're
And that's what most arguments are. They are based on assumption of negativity, assumption of bad intent, right? Well, negativity is just bad intent, crappy intent, right? But when we assume good intent, we come at things from a different angle. We are now assuming we've misunderstood somewhere, right? There you go. Life is easy.
Yes.
I trust your intent. So how can it be negative? Yes. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. You want to really improve your relationship? Make this your new habit. Assume good intent. And in the context of anxiety and worry, assume good intent from the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That things happen for a good reason. Right? Now, when I say that, I really mean things happen and there's a good reason in it somewhere for you. So yes, the thing itself may be negative, but learning isn't always nice. Good is not always nice, right,
Yep.
Jessica? So you had
Exactly.
an unpleasant experience recently, right? A stalker experience essentially, but it
Yes.
was a good experience, even though it wasn't nice. Yes.
Very much so. I did learn a lot with
Yes.
just that one experience.
Right. So now when you look at the intent of the universe or your subconscious, whichever you want to ascribe to bringing this about, or the world, it doesn't matter. God, you can choose whatever deity you like. Doesn't matter. Fairy queen, random, it's up to you. It doesn't really matter. End result is the same. Right. The point is that when we shift and we look at the intent here, say, oh wow. When I assume a good intent, a big overall intent, not the intent of the stalker now, but the
No.
overall intent, the situational intent, the life intent. I say, oh my goodness, what a gift. I got a chance to demonstrate that I've changed. I got a chance to prove to myself, to show. I didn't even realize I changed this much. And wow, I see now. Oh, what a gift, right? Whatever. There's always gifts of awareness involved. We just need to assume that good intent to see it. Yes.
And I
So,
specifically remember with this, the me then would in public purposely pick a fight
yeah,
with said person in order to expose them.
exactly. Exactly.
And the me now did not do that.
Yeah, you don't need to, I mean, your action behavior, it's very clear to anybody who's around there, oh, well, yeah, we got, just a bully and a nonsense person and a BMN and, a not nice person, right? So this is very powerful. But, again, this is now detail. I don't want to go into the whole detail of it.
No.
But when we shift and we have these different awarenesses, everything changes along with it. Right?
Including your worry, anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about anxiety and worry and perspective and assuming good intent, I want to tell you a story about the zebras, right? So this is a story about consciousness shifting, right? So this is there's this little machine they invented, and it takes your awareness, your consciousness, and it's able to transfer it into another a living creature, right? So okay, so off we go, the two of us, right? And we say, well, we're going to try this machine. We're going to be zebras. This is going to be cool. So off we go into the zebras, right? And we meet the new zebras and say, oh, hello, yes, okay, well, where did you come from? Okay, well, it doesn't matter, we just joined your troop, and okay. Don't ask too many questions, but all right. So we say, oh, but like, what about those lions? Aren't they just terrible and horrible? And the poor zebras are horrified. They're like, what are you saying? So, Jessica, are you guys mad? This blasphemy, this is terrible. It's like, what? And we're like, huh? Like, Jessica, really? Am I not missing something here? Aren't the lions like terrible for the zebra? And say, well, what do you mean? Like, don't the lions want to eat you? They say, yes, they do. And we're like, but isn't that bad? No. Huh? What do you mean? No, that's not bad. Oh, the lions, they make us better. How do you figure the lion wants to eat you? Well, the lion forces us to run and exercise. And when the lion comes, we get all this exercise. And of course, it makes us alert and aware. Oh, well, now that you mention, well, that's kind of a good thing. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay. Yeah, the lions are our gods. The lions are wonderful. They force us to be better. If we don't, they eat us. It's very real. There's a very real consequence to being crappy. Thank you, lions. I mean, what point is a God that says, well, be good, and then, it's up to you. And if you're not good, nothing happens. That's kind of lame. Yeah. Oh, no, our gods, man, there's a real consequence. And you say, now, if I have to tell my children, be alert, they say, why? Everything's fine. There's no danger. Okay, all right, just watch. You remember Pete, your buddy Pete? What happened to Pete? He was going along happy and eating away. Oh, no problem. And the next thing, the lions ate him. Oh, yeah, I remember Pete. Okay, well, Pete's no more. Yeah, okay. And how did Pete die? Was it fun? No, it was terrible. Okay, be alert. See, don't want to be Pete. Yeah. See, so the lions help the zebra be better. The lines are there for a purpose. There's some good to it. Maybe not the nicest way, but there's some good to it, right? So now when we shift our perspective, we start to see that predators serve a value in the world. Yes.
Yeah, and see, the thing is my perspective needed to be shifted, and I just wasn't doing it on my own.
Exactly.
And that's a big, huge concept for me right now, especially because recently I had a conversation with Cher saying that, oh, hey, I don't need to worry. I don't need to be, I'm fine. I'm safe. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, was that a big like nope, let's really rethink this. Are you truly? Where's your mindset at? What are your intents,
Yes.
and so that really, like, just even that story, hearing it again, it really hit with this situation and with the way things are coming together and the lessons I'm learning. Are they fun? No, because not every lesson is going to be fun.
Exactly. But they can be.
Yes, they can be. And you can make it into a fun thing.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, is because the learning aspect of it can be so much more than just the horrid lesson that was being taught.
Exactly. When we learn to love learning, then those lessons change. The lesson itself may, but I like the learning. That's the part that I get the joy of, and it takes away all the other crap, right? And then when the universe sees you start liking learning and you start to look for learning, you're not forced to learn. Well, now the lessons are fun. Well, it's like the zebras, right? Who love the learning. It's like, you see the zebras prancing around on the edge. They, here I am, lion. See, come and chase me. Okay, well, there we go. And they have fun. It's a game to them, right? The young the young zebras, right? The teenage zebras. This is a great big game to them, right? And they love it. This is great because, man, they get to show how tough and strong they are. And there you go, And so, well, you didn't catch us, lion. So sorry, you're gonna go hungry, but that's too bad. That's just, you chose this path. So all right, that's the downside. So.
You want to know
So,
something awesome?
yes.
So before this, I let's say yesterday as well as this morning, I was dreading leaving the house because I was worried and anxious that I would run into him again.
Yes, but
And
now
now I'm like, nah, watch out, here I come.
exactly. It's an opportunity for you to test your strength and your courage and your convictions, right?
Yes.
The worst that can happen is what?
The worst that can happen is there would be a verbal altercation at this point.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, now, in some cases, right, somebody could say, well, the worst that could happen is I could get beaten up, raped, or killed. Yes, fair enough.
Yes, I was trying to minimize that part.
Right. You've been there, so you know what I'm saying. So I'm not minimizing and not saying, oh, no, but just because you can be cautious doesn't mean you have to be fearful. Yes.
Or
so
on hyper vigilant.
Exactly. Or in hyper stress, hypertension. Exactly. Right. So there is stuff that you can do. And of course, right, when we're talking about predators, which is a different, in this particular type of predation, right, this is a very particular specific exercise. And there's many things that we can do, but it's beyond the scope here. I don't want to just minimize this, and especially people who are suffering from abuse and stuff like this. No, there are things, though, that you can do, and also be aware that you play a part in it. Yes, that if you don't act like prey, then you take away the power of the predator, right? They have a formula that they've got to behave according to, pretty much, right? So be aware. And of course, if you're taking safety measures, precaution, you put it in the light, like abusers and bullies, they can only do these things in the dark. They can't do it if there's visibility. So there are many things that you can do. You are not powerless just because you are not the predator. Just because you're not a lion, it doesn't mean you have to be at the mercy of the lions. Yes,
exactly. And that's what I was getting at, is that the more I go over these slides altogether, module 2, it starts to click more and more. And now I'm not scared to leave the house. Like after I have an appointment after this, I'm not scared to go.
Exactly. I mean, you're still not necessarily looking forward to it,
No.
but in some part of you, you say, well, you know what? That's what kept me there. If I see it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to practice my own mood management, to practice my own habit management, to practice my awareness, to be in charge of myself. Okay, bring it on, dude. Bring it on. This is it. You're going to get nothing out of me. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to fight with you. You're just going to get nothing. You're not important in my life anymore, right? I am in charge of me, not you. And the moment they see that, well, what's in it for them now, right? They only were in it because you were a victim, and they could push you and bully you and make you afraid and scared. Well, now you take their jollies away, right? So this is the thing, it's amazing how this is very powerful. This is great that you have this opportunity. Now, of course, there are crazy people out there, and you don't want to be messing with crazy people because their logic just doesn't apply to them. So be aware, like any animals, when a lion and it comes across a rabbit that has rabies, well, it stays away. Yeah,
Yep.
They know,
Proceed
they
with
understand
caution.
rabies. It doesn't matter that I'm bigger and tougher with you. I don't want to tangle with you because I'm going to get infected with your rabies. Even though I might end up killing you and eating you, I'm still going to end up with the rabies, right? So be aware of this, that the things that we're talking about here apply when people aren't crazy. But some people are crazy, and the only way to deal with crazy people, stay far away from them, right? Or call the authorities, and that's it. So be aware of this. Now, crazy is not necessarily mentally ill, right? Be understanding about the same thing, yes?
Yes, they are not.
Which, yes, I feel very deeply for mentally ill people, right? It's a very, very sad, tragic thing. You or me, we can become mentally ill. I can get a brain injury or get a virus in the brain or whatever. Many reasons why the brain gets affected. This is mentally ill. Like same with your body. You get a virus in your body, and your body doesn't mean suddenly that you are inherently a bad person because your body's unhealthy. No, your body's unhealthy. You're still a good person. Well, your brain can be unhealthy, and it can make you behave like an unhealthy person, right? Like a bad person, right? So there's a very big difference. But crazy people, this is a very different deal, right? The BMNs and abusers, and these are people who know what they're doing, bullies. This is a societal craziness. That's what it is, right? They temporarily caught in these bubbles. They believe they should do this stuff. And some of them do it knowingly and consciously, right? Is they like the payoffs and it's a shortcut. But this is just craziness. The same kind of craziness as, you go on a wild party or something, and afterwards, what the hell was I thinking? Crazy behavior. You drive too fast, crazy behavior. Same thing, right? So be aware of the difference. Be aware of the difference, right? I'm not minimizing things in the least. I'm simply saying pay attention appropriately. Have a perspective.
Proceed with caution.
Yes, exactly. And proceed with perspective. Understand this in its full complexity, right? See it from all the angles. Not that simple. Very, very, very powerful. All right. I was kind of thinking to go on to this. Okay, it's part of conditioned behavior and response. It ties to habits, right? So our theme is habit a little bit. So even if we weren't predisposed to anxiety and worry, when we did, this was reinforced by society. Worry typically is approved of in a subtle way as a caring about matters. It shows you're a good person, a subtle belief system at play. Also, if we don't worry, we show up those who do. Very important point. So our authority figures entrench their behavior by focusing on conditioning us into the same. Yes. So in other words, your parents or your teachers, they want you also to worry, because if you don't worry, then, well, and you don't need to worry, well, how come you're not worrying? Well, there's nothing to worry about. Well, doesn't that mean I'm being stupid? Yes. So they don't want to look stupid, right? So they teach you to do their same stupid behavior because they don't want to look stupid. They're already caught in the habit. So now they pull you in as well, right? Be very aware about conditioned behavior and response. Not always are people doing things for sensible reasons. They don't even realize, they're not even aware that they're getting you to do the same to justify their nonsense, right? Because they don't know it's nonsense. They think it's sensible, right? So be aware of this. I'm not anti-establishment or anti-society, just as a well, I'm a, what do they call it? A misanthrope, right? No, I'm not this. I'm just being aware to say that don't take things just at face value. Don't assume, in other words. No, don't assume. Very, very big deal. To touch on a point, since Bina has joined us, right? That Bina brought up in a post that she made. Very, very powerful point. So Bina, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to actually go to your timeline here and look at that message, that post that you made. It's very powerful in this logic. I must go to Bina's timeline, not look at Bina's posts. View main profile. Right. It's a very powerful post that point that Bina's making, as you'll see in a moment, right? So let me just scroll here to it. Okay. Hush, shh, no, don't, keep quiet, etc., etc. Is it only a positive gesture? Is it only a polite gesture? Right? She asked. Is this just politeness or a well-mannered way to say, watch your words? Or is it a sophisticated way of shutting down feelings and self-trust? Right? So Bina makes a comment here. She says it's deeper than words and has some serious connections to our whole lives and personalities. I have been thinking about this issue throughout my life. It was impossible for me to understand why doing something bad, inappropriate, impolite is okay, but mentioning the same act or even asking about it is not okay. Right? One of the reasons for me is our childhood training of don't do, don't say, etc. from elders around us. And this training has more negative consequences than some positives. So it's a very fine point of discernment here that no, keep quiet because if you say what I do, you expose the hypocrisy, right? This is the point. Yes, Bina? There's this gross hypocrisy. I'm worrying. And if I say, and you come and say, but why are you worrying? Well, there's no real good reason for it. So shh, be quiet. Don't talk about it, right? You get told. And it's
Do as I
okay.
say, not as I do.
Exactly. But here's the point though, right? It's more don't do either as I say or I do when it comes to some adults. Yes. Some authorities.
Yes.
Right? Don't do what they say or what they do, both. But they're trying to shut you up so that you don't expose their hypocrisy. Right?
Mhm.
Very, very powerful point. So very cool post, Bina. Very, very cool post. Very awesome. And it goes in this point of conditioned behavior, right? There we go. So this point of conditioned behavior, right? That we get taught to that some things show that we're good and caring, like anxiety and worry. And this is why people do it sometimes, right? They're trying to prove how caring they are. And it's just, runaway self-importance, just inadvertent narcissism.
Mhm.
Very important to understand. Yes. So be careful why you do things. In other words, pay attention to the why, right? So our default is caring. It's also a deeply reinforced behavior via societal pressures. We can come to believe caring is best shown through anxiety and worry, but of course it is not. It's not even the only way we can show caring. It's a way, one of many, not the best way by far. But we can believe thus, which reinforces the feeling, putting us into a caring anxiety loop. Yeah. So don't think that your
Mhm.
anxiety and worry is caring, and this is how I care. It's bullshit. Sorry, it's just flat out plain bullshit. Yes.
Yes, then because also for some people, it then becomes an excuse for controlling behaviors. I'm doing
Exactly.
this because I care about you. I'm doing this
Exactly.
because I worry about you.
Exactly. Now, bullshit. You just want to have control. That's all.
Exactly.
And why do you want control? Because you're basically insecure.
Yes.
People who are secure in themselves, they don't need to go around controlling other people.
No.
I'm happy, I'm cool, I'm confident. I don't need to do this. I don't need to balance myself, balance my imbalances, balance my hollowness with all. No, I'm chill, I'm happy, right? So look at people who are basically together with themselves, right? Or in balance with themselves. They don't do half the nonsense that the world around us does, right?
Yes.
So
And I
most
use it.
insecurity. Go ahead.
Yes, and using caring as like an excuse for worry and anxiety, that is can also be an um uh inappropriate application of goodness.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, some tasks and exercises, right? So if anybody's following along on the course, do this on your own, right? Um, so how often do the things you worry about and are anxious about actually happen the way you worry they might? What are the actual statistics involved? How often do you even check up on whether or not things turn out the way you worried they would? How often do you deliberately worry? Let me ask you this. How often do you deliberately worry, Jessica?
Not so much anymore,
Right.
but the the
It's kind of
old
hard to
me.
deliberately worry, is it not?
Yes. Yes
Yeah.
and no.
Consciously and deliberately worry. Like right now, if I said to you, okay, worry about something, please, Jessica.
Oh, I can find anything and everything to worry about. I can worry about money. I can worry about,
Yeah, but is
the
that
weather.
thinking about it? That is that thinking being strategic, or is it actually worrying? You see what I mean? The emotion is going to be different, yeah,
Okay.
because you're thinking it differently. You like thinking about it, you're figuring it out. You aren't going to get all stressed and worried and bothered, are you? Well, you might if you allow yourself to get spun into it, right?
Yeah.
But when you do things deliberately, they kind of change. Yes, they're not the same. Yeah?
Yes. That
So that's
that
the
that
second
makes more
part of
sense
this.
now. Yep.
What's implied, right, in this question. It's like, okay, deliberately angry is a better way. Sure, I can work myself into an anger, but to be deliberately angry, who the hell wants to go and do that? It's like, why? Well, same thing with worry and anxiety. To do it deliberately, it's, to experience the negativity, the actual emotional part of it. It's like, no, man, I don't want to do this. So I can think about things, but thinking about things not quite the same as worrying and being anxious. Yes. Right.
Sure.
Yeah. So does your worry and anxiety need to be a habit?
No.
It's amazing. What an incredible question, right? What an
Mm-hmm.
incredible question. Does it
It
need?
really makes you think.
Exactly. That's the point of these tasks and exercises, to make you think. Very simple questions sometimes. But now that you said that way, oh, Sol, you just crushed all my anxiety and worry. Bloody hell, of course I don't need to do it. Well, now whenever I'm going to be anxious and worry, I'm just going to feel like a fool because I
No.
don't need to do it, right?
Yeah, but to actually, and you can actually reshift your perspective on that though, because just because you recognize or you catch yourself and acknowledge that you're worrying and having anxiety does
Yeah,
not make you, inept or a fool. When you catch
exactly.
yourself, be like, oh yeah, hey, I did do that. But ask yourself, is there a need to be worried about this?
Exactly. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge.
What good is it going to give me?
Right. And then you say, well, I don't need to, but I'm in the habit of doing so. That's
So
a different thing, right?
yeah, like
Oh,
I'm in a habit, but I can
right.
change it.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, this is a very important point here. Pay attention to how your worrying and anxiety is subtly reinforced and entrenched by others and society. Report on what you behave. Yes. So next time you're worrying and anxious, watch how people say, "Oh, don't worry, it's okay." Well, they're saying, "Don't worry, it's okay," but aren't they subtly reinforcing your worry? You're such a good person for worrying, and it's okay. I mean, their attitude is basically condoning what you're doing, even though they're saying, stop worrying, don't worry, right? They're sort of supporting you in a way, right? Subtle reinforcement and entrenchment. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Yeah. Or they might say, oh, yes, I know. Yes, you're right. That's so terrible. Subtle reinforcement.
Yeah,
Pay
I
attention.
couldn't I don't have that problem in my life right now. So that's why I went towards the opposite of just general public.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what are other more useful and personally rewarding ways you can show and demonstrate your caring? That's a question I'll leave open, right? I'll leave open.
Mhm.
That's very, very, very cool, right? So, the other ways to show your caring, anxiety and worry, they aren't very good ways. Folly is sadly often a result of inappropriate application of goodness. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Big point. And Jessica's going to be sharing about this on. We're going to talk about this in the future more. Maybe next time, since this is the start of it, right?
Mhm.
So, this is very powerful, Jessica. We'll stop here for today.
Okay.
Then we'll carry on with this misapplication, which is a very, very huge, great, big, life transforming point. So if anybody's gotten to this far in the watching the video or the live, come back next week. This point of misapplication of goodness, huge, huge.
It is
It's
huge.
as huge as habits.
And I'm
right?
still learning more about it.
Yes, it's a massively powerful thing. So there's some homework for Jessica. Yeah, very, very cool. All right. Thank you, Sher, for being here. Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Bina. And thank you, Michaela. If you listened, I asked you to say hello, but she struggles with the internet sometimes, so maybe you'll see it on the replay. But anyway, and thank you anybody else who came. So very cool.
Thank you.
I know a lot of people watch these on the replays. They don't always see them live, and it's all good. It really is. So we don't do this necessarily because we want people to watch and get lots of likes. No, we do it because it benefits us and we get lots of value and magic out of it. If somebody else benefits, this is wonderful. This is bonus, right?
Yes.
Bonus. All right, brilliant. We'll see you when we see you, Jessica. So
All
cool.
right. Sounds good. Thank you, so.
So much fun. Yes.
Very much so.
Yeah. All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.